Hi, this is Celeste. It looks like we're just about ready to get started in a minute here. Nevada people are already advocating for their state. Luckily, Nevada, I do have some good information for you today. And Michael, for you in Florida as well. So in terms of Arizona, so Arizona is a UBE state, and the UBE is composed of that multi-state bar exam multiple choice. The MBE essays I talked about in depth on Tuesday, and then MPT, the practice test or performance test, we'll talk about more next week. But again, everyone's welcome to stay. I am just focused more on the states that don't have, don't get the love of the UBE materials or the California materials today. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to close chat now, and I will check back in later to see what states I have that are non-UBE states. But I want to focus on my main material for today, which basically we're going to talk about, overall approaches that can apply to all states, how to use BarMax's MBE materials, and then how to find state-specific materials for the state-specific part of your exam, how to use those materials effectively. And then for those of you who tell me what states you're from, I do have a little bit of specific information about the exam in each of those states, particularly the states that are listed here. I'll talk about why I have them in different categories in a minute, but those are the states that I have, a little bit of extra information for today. So the approach that we recommend for all states is that you practice with real essays. Now, obviously, for those who are taking the UBE, they have access to a huge bank of past MBE questions, multi-state essay exam questions. Well, good for them, right? Fortunately, most of you have access to past questions as well. In most cases, they are on the State Bar's website. If you want a packet that we've compiled for your non-UBE state and you are a BarMax MBE student already, you can ask us, just hit us up through support and we can send you that packet so that you have access to past essays. The best way to know how your state tests your skills and knowledge of the law is to use past essays for your particular state. I realized looking at my notes, I didn't take care of my housekeeping. Here's my housekeeping. Throw into chat, up in chat, the state where you'll be taking the bar. I see I have a new attendee from Massachusetts. I took the Massachusetts bar back when it was its own special bar. There was no UBE, but Massachusetts is now a UBE state. There's a map listing them all on the NCBE website. It's ncbex.org if anyone's curious. And Michigan is one of our special states that I'll be talking about today. So I appreciate seeing your states there, because I will have a little bit of specific information after I go through all of my general advice. So just as a reminder, and I'll also look at Q&A periodically. Just as a reminder, BarMax MBE has outlines and lectures and live office hours and every real MBE question that NCBE, the National Conference of Bar Examiners, has ever released. Every real MBE question. So if you're just looking for MBE prep, you've come to the best place. And if you saw my MBE webinar, you saw the tools that we have within BarMax to help you really succeed on that portion of the exam. But today we're focused on that weird state-specific part of your exam in Michigan, in Nevada, in Florida, where you have state-specific material. So we want you to use real essays, and we want you to use other resources strategically. And this is where I'm going to confess, when I prepared for my last bar exam, I'd been a law professor already, but I'd moved around and done different things I needed to take the bar exam. Oh, I did self-study. I forgot, that's not the one I have here. This one is from the state where I live now, Indiana. Doop. What it is the Commbuys mini review. And yes, the name of the company on here is not BarMax. Okay, this company whose program you know, Barbary, right, will sell you this Commbuys mini review in a stack of books about this high as part of their program that, as you know, costs a lot of money and isn't as good as ours. So what you can do is just go to eBay or some other online source and get that Commbuys mini review for subjects relevant to your specific state's material. And then they also have in-class workbooks, which are little fill-in-the-blank things that you do for subjects that are, you know, that they do for the lectures, because their outlines, their regular outlines tend to be very long, voluminous, too much information to remember, and a lot of it not tested or not heavily tested. The tested rules are in the BarMax outline, so you don't need, you know, such a long document. The Commbuys mini reviews are at least somewhat shorter for those state-specific subjects, so you can use those as review material. And I'll talk about how to use them strategically with the essays. Anyway, the workbooks are what they give you to fill out during the lecture. Obviously, the lectures aren't as long as those long outlines. So if you've got one, if it's filled in, you can study from it. And if it's not, you can fill it in by using the Commbuys and learn, you know, drill the law from your state. So these pages, I just flipped through a few eBay pages. These are things that we can see right now on eBay for a couple of the states. I had some Florida, I had some Texas. You know, obviously it's eBay, it comes and goes. You may find another online source. Also, you may have colleagues or like students you know who took the bar before you. Barbary wants everybody to sell back their books so that these don't float around on the market, because they knew that if there were too many of these, then nobody would take their course, right? Nobody would pay all that money to take their course. So you may know someone who works in a law firm, or, you know, I knew a student who used this, got it from, this Indiana one, who got it from someone at the courthouse and then passed it on to me because she was like a law clerk at the prosecutor's office, right? So she got it, used it, and then passed it on to me. What is in the Commbuys mini review? Well, they have outlines of the MBE subjects that are mini, but still too long. Okay, quite frankly, those outlines are still too long. You want to use the BarMax outlines for the MBE subjects. And what they do, typically, it can vary a little by state, but typically they have a little section that they call, I should have marked it, their distinctions, okay? In this one, the only section of distinctions, that is things that are different on those 7 MBE subjects to the Indiana exam, is in real property. And what it is about 6 pages on Indiana landlord tenant law. Now, why am I using Indiana as an example? Because I have the book in my hand. But the distinctions can be very short. So that's all you need to know that's different from your state in most cases. Okay, in most cases, if there's a distinctions part, that's what you need to know that's different from the MBE. And then, of course, there are your weird topics that are only tested in your state, like Indiana constitutional law or Florida practice and procedure. For those, you'll use those outlines. And you'll use past questions, okay? You will go on either your state's bar website, or you can ask us, or in one state, there's a law school that's posted them, and find those past essays. And we'll talk specifically what's available state by state when we go through your states. When you go through the essays, you can write some for practice, and then, you know, compare them if there is a sample answer given. Some states give a little analysis. Some states give sample student answers. You can compare them, look at them. You can look at them side by side with your outline and figure out how you should state the rule. You can do them open book. Okay, these are all good methods for study. Don't use them as a test. Not now, not in May, not in the first half of June. You know, even all of June, use them as study materials. Bonnie, today is not focused on California. I know we have other, I know Mayron may be on this, and you know, Mayron, if you want to say any words about California, but we really do have an entire California course, and this, and lots of California materials. And this is really for our people who don't have access to that for their state. That's focused on today because they don't get as much love. So they're getting it today. So when you do these essays, you're going to go through them. You can write some out, but the best way to use more essays is just to read them, read the essay question, take some notes, figure out what, you know, figure out what the issues are, and write out the rule. If you don't know the rule, look it up. You're using it as a study tool. You go, aha, here's a subject that is frequently tested. You know, here's a subject that, that, you know, I've seen in several different essay questions. So when that happens, then you go, oh, okay, I'm going to mark it in my outline. I'm reading this essay question. I see that it's about contract repudiation. I go, they like to test contract repudiation. I make a mark. I make sure I know the doctrine. Okay, I mark up my outline, my little, you know, Commbuys thing, whatever. Contract repudiation is a bad example because that's contracts, and you can study that through BarMax. But if it's a state-specific topic, you know, all of the stuff on best interests of the child, you'll look at examples from your state, right? In family law, things like that. So most states that test weird subjects like state constitutional law only test a few doctrines within those subjects. Sometimes they even list them on the state website, but otherwise you'll find that those state outlines tend to be very short for those kind of oddball subjects. There's only 6 pages worth of stuff that this state wants people to know about residential landlord tenant. That's it. It's a big chart, 6 pages, how it differs from the common law. And that's all you need to know that's different. So you can use BarMax outlines. Now, why are BarMax outlines better for the MBE topics? Look, even their mini property outline is 70 pages. Ours is 39, and that's one of the long outlines. That's one of the longest outlines we have because there's so much stuff in property. Do you want to read 70 pages worth of stuff that may or may not be tested, or do you want the 39 pages that are tested, right? And have access to, you know, the way I showed how you can do the multiple choice questions in our app. You know, clearly superior, because you'll have access to all of the MBE questions and the support, the office hours, the things that we can offer. So that's what you should use for the MBE and for any essays on the MBE topics. So yeah, use other resources strategically, right? Use the essays. So you're doing that essay, you're going through, you're reading it, you're taking notes on what the rules are, you're comparing it to the sample student answer. I want to talk about how to use sample student answers. They're not the Bible, right? You know, for test prep. They're not your outline. They're not a statute or a case. They could be wrong. I have read sample student answers that I thought, did they choose the highest scoring answer for this one, or did they go alphabetically? You know, most of the time they're good, strong answers, but every now and then there's something that, like, I didn't see that issue being tested. It looks a little weird, or it has a misstatement of law, and it'll slip in there as a sample answer. You think, great, thank you, state. This isn't very helpful to me, but you'll know better, because often there are 2 sample answers. There's a state that provides 4 per essay in some cases. That's Texas. 4 per essay. You can compare all 4. And then you see those common elements. You go, okay, this is what got people points. Okay, if you see some oddball thing that looks wrong, it might be. So you take them with a grain of salt, but you look at them and go, okay, this is what scored very high. And this is generally what I'm aiming for. But then you check your own work against that outline. Some states provide actual, like, point by point, this is what we wanted the examinee to get out of this. Georgia does that. We've got another state that does that. Those are great. Those are really helpful. You know, sample examinee answers are good for some things, but really knowing the doctrine, those point sheets are super helpful. If you need more help on the MBE topics and just want to see MEE essays, as I said, ask us. If you say, I want to see all the essays in civil procedure or contracts or evidence or whatever it is that you're having trouble in, we can send you those if you're an MBE student, because we figure the MBE topics are part of your course. Okay? Now, if your state includes a lot of things that are tested on the UBE, like corporations, like family law, like wills and trusts, you might consider taking the UBE course. Even though you'll still need to study your state distinctions in a book like this, or, you know, whatever other resource you get used for a decent price somewhere else, you'll need your state distinctions, but getting the BarMax outlines and lectures might also be helpful, because those things don't vary a lot state to state. And even in the outline, it'll say some states do this and some states do that. Well, as you study your distinctions, you'll just mark, this is what my state does. Okay, so it's a very active study procedure. You do have to kind of have a little bit of hustle to do it, but it's not impossible. It's not, you know, it's not very complicated. You can set up a schedule for yourself where you'll be able to use those materials strategically to help yourself pass. Okay, let me move on. I spent a lot of time there. I want to talk about the different exams. I don't think I have anyone from, let me check chat now. I want to see who we have. Taking the bar was fun. I don't know who you are, Priscilla. Back away. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Some people like certain exams. So, Michigan, Massachusetts, not your stuff. Okay, fine in the Sunshine State. So we got, yeah, there's Michael from Florida, giving it another shout out. Everybody's hearing fine. So we do have some Nevada, we have some Florida, we have some Michigan, we have Virginia in the house. Thank you. I do have some stuff for you, Virginia. I mean D, but in Virginia, right? So we don't have anybody from those first 5 states. So we don't need to park on them, but those states are basically the UBE with one more component. Now, actually, this is a little error here. My little Texas, which we don't have anybody, but it should go up here because they do use one MPT. If you're in a state, Georgia, Delaware, Indiana, Nevada, or Texas, and I didn't see any of those, no, I saw one Nevada, you might consider sending some practice MPT, multi-state practice tests, to BarMax for our review. You can purchase reviews. I think it's $30 each, and you get a discount if you buy a package, okay? If you need this course. You know, I'm getting a lot of questions about when the California seminar is, and I don't know because I'm not the one who teaches that, okay? California is one of the bars I haven't done. I'm learning the subjects, and that's good, but I'm not our best teacher for California, so we keep me away from that. So I don't know what day California, and I don't know if somebody else can chime in or not. Georgia, I've had a Georgia before. All right, I'm ready for you. So yeah, Georgia, I have a specific slide for you. Anyway, so those states that have multi-state practice tests or performance tests, or even California, who has a performance test that's now an identical format to the MPT multi-state performance test, you can practice on old performance tests and send them to us for review. Where can you find those? You can find them in BarMax. If you're in the UBE program, you get them all. Some of them are available for free, just a few, but for free on the ncbex.org website, okay? So there's another place to get some. And then there are even more available for purchase on the ncbex.org website. So you should definitely review some of those performance tests to make sure you understand how to go about doing those tasks. Send a couple in for review so that we can give you feedback on your writing. Do that early so that you know you have this skill. And then as you get closer to the exam, do a couple more timed, because man, the only hard thing about the MPT for some people is just staying on time, or at least the hardest thing, right? Especially in states where you have 2 of them, okay? They're 90 minutes each, and some states use 2. So you've got 3 hours, and you've got these 2 big files, and you have to allocate your time. You can't spend all your time on the first one because they're weighted equally in your score. Some states only give you that 90 minutes to do one. You want to make sure that you've outlined, that you've done your, writing, that you've written a conclusion so they know you finished. If you're running behind, go write a conclusion, then come back and finish. Anyway, so practice with timing toward the end. And again, I'll be having another session just on the MPT, but for those of you who have performance tests, it really benefits you to practice. Keziah, Massachusetts does not need this webinar. You're right. Here's what webinars will help you in Massachusetts. The MBE one that I did last week, the MEE one from Tuesday, and the MPT one from this week. So go study your MBE subjects instead of listening to me today, unless you're just so wildly entertained you can't leave. So that's for you, Keziah. I stayed in a webinar on you on Tuesday. Oh, well, okay. Marguerite says you took 5 pages of notes on Tuesday. I got to tell you, Marguerite, you only get 20 minutes per essay in Michigan. So you're going to have to condense everything. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. So yeah, so this is not for Massachusetts, but I see a lot of my other states here. So let's move on. So all of these states listed down here, even though Texas does have one MPT, They have a lot of state-specific material, and we'll go through what those subjects are and where you can get good materials for them, okay? So since I have gotten some Florida, I knew I'd get some Florida, I actually want to reassure you that people have used BarMax as part of their Florida preparation. This guy passed, you know, 2 years ago, but still on a tight timeline. I focused on the MBE portion of the BarMax materials. Okay, and it talked about how we used our materials, and we have even more stuff now in BarMax. And this person also passed in Florida using BarMax materials. This person had success just using our MBE, and these are other non-UBE states down here, Hawaii, Mississippi. I don't think we have you guys today. But since I know I have Florida, let's start with Florida, okay? So let me look at my notes too, okay? I have a couple of slides on Florida, but let me make sure that I don't leave anything out because, you know, I've been learning a lot and I wanna make sure I share it all with you. Okay, so floridabarexam.org is your bar website, and they have over on the left something called exam information. It is a super helpful website, one of the most helpful ones. One of the most helpful websites that in terms of all the materials that you need. Okay, what you need, my Florida friend or friends, is on floridabarexam.org. Okay, your first day is called Part A, and you guys have a weird exam. You have 3 essay segments. They call them segments because each essay could cover up to 3 topics, up to 3 subjects, okay? I shouldn't whisper, up to 3 subjects. You'll have 3 essay segments and then you'll have 100 multiple choice questions. So all of those essay and multiple choice questions on the Florida law test, FLT, they call it Part A, but everyone else calls it the Florida law test, okay? All of those are, you know, all of these subjects are up for grabs, but there will definitely be one essay here. Okay, one essay segment will cover your Florida rules of civil and criminal procedure and rules of judicial administration in some combination. Okay, you'll probably either get a civil or anyway. These next topics, you'll notice this is an MBE topic, except you'd have to add Florida constitutional law, which, like I said, most states that test their constitutions only test a few doctrines. Learn those doctrines, and then federal constitutional law carry you through contracts, criminal law and procedure, evidence, real property, torts. All those are on the MBE. You only need to learn your state distinctions. State distinctions tend to be the most important in real property and to some extent all the procedure, but you'll have learned the procedure for the other part of the test anyway, okay? The distinctions tend to be less, you know, pronounced when it comes to, the distinctions tend to be less pronounced when it comes to the other topics, okay? Like torts and contracts, because common law has developed, you know, everywhere. So again, you want to get an outside source and you want to study those Florida essays to see how they test it. And if you see something that's a weird minority Florida rule on those past Florida essays, you know, take note of it, learn it. But if you're going through enough essays, you're going to see what they like to test over and over. Now, these are the Florida state-specific subjects down below. But notice that business law, family law, trust, wills, and estate administration, and Article 9 of the UCC are also subjects that are covered in our UBE course. Again, you would need to know Florida distinctions. If you want to get the UBE course to know all the general law, you can, but Florida will have its own special rules in each of those areas, especially the administrative component, right? You'll need to know that. And we do not have a course on Article 3. Just the difference between Article 3 and Article 9. Article 3 is called commercial paper or negotiable instruments, and Article 9 is secured transactions. Okay, so Florida does test both, and the UBE only tests secure transaction these days. And of course, almost all the state-specific exams want you to know your state's professionalism or legal ethics or legal profession or whatever they call it, right? So you will need to know that for Florida. Again, you've got the MPRE. Hopefully you've already passed it, and if not, you will soon, using our free BarMax materials. But you're gonna need your Florida professionalism materials as well. Now, what about those weird multiple choice questions? There's plenty of samples on that helpful website, okay? That floridabarexam.org, when you click exam information, plenty of helpful questions. I noticed that some of the multiple choice questions look a little bit like MBE questions. They have, a fact pattern. You have to pick the right answer. But it tends to be less about understanding how the question is written and more about, do you know the law? And this one here looks nothing like an MBE question. This is a Florida question. They just want you to show that you know the rule. Okay, this is a real past Florida question. They don't publish a lot of the multiple choice, but they have, a good representative sample so that you can see what it looks like. Some of them are more fact pattern, analysis, apply. This is just, do you know the rule? Okay. So some of them will be that. You just really need to kind of memorize your rules of procedure for Florida for that portion of the test. So I think that covers Florida. Let me see. Michael, if you, Michael and SK, if you come up with more questions about Florida that I might know the answer to, you can let me know. But pretty much, that's the summary. The professionalism is chapters 4 and 5 of the rules regulating the Florida bar. So there you go. Go look at chapters 4 and 5. Okay, I'm gonna jump on down to Michigan, because that was the state I heard from next. And I will do all the states, but I want to do the ones where I have people here first. Because that way, if you feel like you've gotten the information you need and you need to leave, that's fine. I'm going to record them all so that you and everyone else has access to the information that you find helpful later. Okay. So for Michigan, your website, did I not put it here? I did not. That's me. Whoops. Your website is courts.michigan.gov. Luckily, I did the kind of slides I can write on. I always do that, even though they're not as slick looking. I just like to scribble. Okay, so at courts.michigan.gov, there is a link called Admission to the Bar. Okay, that's where it is. So, and then when you get to that page, there's a link to past exams and examiners analysis. There are no sample answers from students, but they provide the examiner's analysis for each one. Okay, and dear Lord, you have 15 essays. They are short essays, my Michigan friends. Okay, you get 20 minutes to do each of these essays, which to me is borderline insane, right? But it's the kind of essay where if you know it, you know it, you don't, right? They don't want a whole lot of Mickeying around. They get to the point, okay? So you can look at past questions and what they intended to teach. I'm going to blow this up. Now you will notice that you guys have an inordinate number of essays. Okay, you've got, first of all, it's 9 in the morning and 6 in the afternoon, 15 essays. You guys are writing all day, 15 different fact patterns. We feel for you. But again, you've got your MBE topics. What is UCC Article 2? Sale of goods. You learn that with contracts, right? You've got your constitutional law, your criminal law and procedure, your evidence and equity, which is really equitable remedies. It's a good chunk of our little remedies lecture that we have in BarMax, even if you take the MBE course, and you get this, all right? So within our MBE course, you have information on all of these, with the exception of this. Property on the MBE does not include personal property. And that usually tests things like bailments. Remember, you leave the pants at the dry cleaner and, anyway. There are a very narrow range of personal property topics that you, Michigan, will need to know. Now, then you have your Michigan specific topics here. Again, we cover all of these in general terms in our UBE course, okay? But you need to know Michigan distinctions either way. And so for what Michigan distinctions you need to know, we are, just like with all of these other states today, we are recommending you use some outside materials. For this is 100% Michigan, really, okay? Because you'll need to know process that is specific to Michigan. Although some of it is, there's some overlap, right, with mortgages from real property and attachments from secured transactions. To the extent you're using, common law principles or principles that are common to many states, the mortgages part will look familiar. And to the extent you guys are using Article 9 of the UCC, perhaps secure transactions, parts of it will look familiar, but there will be Michigan specific stuff you need to focus on there. And here, Michigan practice and procedure, Michigan rules of professional conduct, and workers' compensation. Go Michigan. How about an attorney gets licensed knowing something about workers' compensation? That's, not a bad idea. So good on you, Michigan, even though they're torturing people taking the bar, requiring them to know all these things. They're good things to know, right? Michigan will agree with me that you're competent to pass law, to practice law after passing this exam. Okay, so Michigan, let's see, what else did I have to say? I want to make sure, because I do have notes. That's pretty much it. Go to the website, or, I think we have them too in a packet if you want us to send it to you for those past essays. Yeah, we do have those for past essays and analyses provided by courts.michigan.gov. All right, so who had talked to me next? It was Nevada. Shall we go to Nevada? Here we go. Shall we go to Nevada? Oh, that was funny, the way I said that. It's like we're all going to get on a plane to Las Vegas. No social distancing. We're not going to Las Vegas today. We're studying for the bar today in our own sheltered in place homes. Okay. Oh, I got to do my, got to get to my notes. I see that some people are saying thank you and that you're finding this helpful. We really try to be helpful with these, and I'm glad that this is helpful to you. Sorry, trying to use too many devices at once. I'm a little awkward. There we go. Nevada. So you have 8 essays plus an MPT. Is that right? Wait, I have 2 MPTs or 1 MPT. Now I don't remember. But now this is what confuses me. I think it's 2 MPTs and my notes are wrong. But your 8 essays, 7 or 8 essays are split. Yeah, 7 essays now because they do this MPT. They do this MPT. So you've got these essays in the morning, these essays in the afternoon. Nevada, here's something a little different about you. Your essays are 1 hour. Okay, so in this way, you're a little more like California. Okay, you have 1 hour essays. Also, you have community property. Okay, you know, out here in the Midwest and out East, we are marital property, you know, jurisdictions, and you're a community property jurisdiction. So they want you to know that, just like in California, except of course, you need to know your Nevada distinctions. And these are your potential essay topics for those 7 essays. You'll notice that legal ethics is always tested. Okay, so the other 6 essays are you know, anywhere in these topics. So just to run through them so that you're sure that you're familiar: constitutional law, contracts, UCC Article 2, sale of goods, corporations. Now, corporations is part of our UBE course, but it's not part of our MBE course, okay? I think it's also part of California, and now I don't have that in my head. I think so. Anyway, you can look on our apps if you want to see what's in each course. Criminal law and procedure, evidence, real property, remedies, torts. So other than corporations, let's unhighlight corporations just to not be confusing. The rest of these are part of the MBE course, okay, that you would get if you enroll or if you are enrolled in MBE with BarMax. So you would need to know your state distinctions. It didn't say anything about knowing Nevada constitutional law, so it would be federal constitutional law. So there's no state distinctions there. And for the other stuff, again, state distinctions tend to come up mostly in real property. If you read any real property outline, ours or Barbari's or anyone else, there's a lot of places where real property goes, in some states this, and in some states that, or like majority, minority, and, you know, so you do have to know which one of those, you know, which side of all those rules Nevada falls on, and you will have to use external materials like, you know, our competitors' little Commbuys or mini review for that. Again, you don't need to get their whole stack of books. Sometimes you'll get an eBay seller that's selling the whole stack of books, you know, or you'll know someone who has something to sell you or lend you or give you. But yeah, really the most helpful thing for you will be that Commbuys or mini review book, or those in-class workbook book. The rest of them, you know, are heavy. I don't know what else I can say about them. They're made of trees. Okay, UCC Article 9 you know, is the same in pretty much all the states. I mean, yeah, states that adopt uniform codes can change something, but, you know, it's the same. You'll need to know UCC Article 9. You'll need to know your state's wills, trusts, and estates and business associations, conflict of laws, and personal domestic relations, which is family law. All right. So again, these topics are part of our major courses, or most of them are. California doesn't have UCC Article 9. But, you know, you will need to know the Nevada distinctions. And if you just are using our MBE course, you'll at least have the ones that are highlighted here in blue. Okay. And again, you can ask us and we'll send you MEE essay questions on those. Now, those are only 30-minute questions. MEE questions are 30-minute questions. So you don't want to use them for essay practice. You want to use the past sample Nevada essays for practice. But you could use those if you need them to learn more doctrine for the MBE. If you're struggling with any particular MBE doctrine, you want to see more fact patterns produced by NCBEX, particularly in civil procedure, you know, on the MBE, because that's on the MBE and not on here. We'll be happy to give that to you if you're enrolled in BarMax. Okay, we can send you those civil procedure essays so that you can review them and know more doctrine. You'll review them just for, okay, what's the doctrine? How does it apply? What's the doctrine? How does it apply? For essay practice, you want to do your Nevada 1-hour essays because those are going to be like California, which tend to be more expansive essays. They want you to show that you know more of the law. They want you to kind of walk through a lot more law than your typical MEE question, which is 30 minutes. Or I don't know how you people do it in Michigan. Okay, anyway, your website for Nevada, your bar website does provide past questions and sample answers going back to 2007. So that's a lot of practice questions. You know, do the most recent 5 years, and if you want more, do more. But that's a lot of practice questions that Nevada gives you. So just using those questions as your study materials, not as test materials at first, but as your study materials, you'll know not just, you know, okay, what's the overall field of law that Nevada is testing in business associations, but what issues does Nevada like to test? What issues am I seeing over and over again? Fiduciary duties, that's everywhere, right? Anyway, so I'm hoping that helps. We've got the MPT. Again, if you want to do practice MPTs, we have them, and you know, they're part of the welcome packet for any of our UBE students and our California students now, because their exam performance test is so much like the MPT as well. But even if you don't do that, we think you should buy a few essay reviews from us and have our instructors look at your essays and give you some feedback. Okay, and then you have the multi-state bar exam on Tuesday and more essays on multi-state bar exam on Wednesday, more essays on Thursday. By the way, everybody, I'm going day 1, day 2, or day 1, day 2, day 3, in the case of the unfortunate people in Nevada and Texas. And the reason I'm doing that instead of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, which is what it's always been, is because with these like new bar exam dates in the fall, and maybe some states will switch that I don't know about, and you know, whatever. A bar exam now might not have the MBE on Wednesday, right? The July one does. If your state is still in July, your MBE is Wednesday. So this would be, you know, with a July exam, it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But because of all the fluidity of this, you know, pandemic situation, I'm just calling it day 1, day 2, day 3, okay? The MBE is always offered on the same day everywhere. So whatever day it is that particular administration, okay? So September 10th, October 1st, like that. Okay. Let's see, what were my next states? I've done Nevada, I've done Michigan, I know I had a Georgia, and I know I had a Virginia, right? Did I have anybody before then? There's my Virginia. Yes, I'm claiming all of you people for myself. Okay, so let's go to Virginia, and then I'll come back to Georgia. And I've actually tutored Georgia, so I've worked with their materials a little. I didn't tutor her specifically to the Georgia portion, but I was her overall tutor. We can talk about how that worked too. All right, so I, I split up Virginia. I think this was one of the earlier ones that I did. And let me make sure I don't have any other special notes that I'm going to forget. Oops. I shouldn't put that in chat. Because obviously I'm not doing these in order. Okay. So your website is barexam.virginia.gov. And there's a link near the bottom of that page to click for information about the bar exam. It just says information about the bar exam. And then at the bottom of that page, and if I recall correctly, there was a whole lot of scrolling down, okay? At the bottom of that page are links to past essays and sample answers. Okay, so this is, again, another state where you have really good information. If you're with us, we can send you a packet of it. If you're not, go ahead and get it from barexam.virginia.gov. We're happy you're here today. Of course, we want you to stick around, take advantage of the discount that you get for registering for this webinar, and you know, then we'll see each other in office hours and so forth going forward. So, you know, I call them the big seven, the MBE subjects. They call it federal practice and procedure. What's federal practice and procedure? It's civil procedure, okay? Actually, I'm not sure if there's a criminal law component of that in Virginia or not. There may be a criminal law component as well. I actually didn't look into that. It just occurred to me now. So you would need to check. UCC Article 2. What's UCC Article 2? Sale of goods, contract law. So that's all this stuff here. Now I've been doing MBE stuff in blue. So let me go ahead and make this blue. Okay, this stuff here is all on the MBE test, unless there is a crim component. Okay, if there's a crim component, then you'll need no more, right? Again, domestic relations, also known as family law, UCC Article 9, business organizations. If you want practice in those things, you can, you know, look at our UBE course for those things, or you can, you know, obviously with that you'll need to know Virginia's domestic relations distinctions and any distinctions in business organizations, which tend to be few, and there won't be distinctions in UCC Article 9 because that's uniform, it's the same everywhere. Okay, so you would need distinctions in these areas here. And then this is stuff that is special to you, Virginia. You are a special state. You're testing UCC Article 3, that's commercial paper or negotiable instruments. You'll want good materials about that. And if you didn't take the class in law school, do lots of past practice questions because that's a tricky area. You'll need Virginia civil and criminal procedure, including appellate. You'll need Virginia professional responsibility. You'll need your creditors' rights, which, as I was discussing with another state, will have a little overlap probably with secure transactions and mortgages, but mostly not. Mostly it will be Virginia specific, you know, the process for having, you know, for a creditor to file suit against a debtor and garnishments and everything else. There are a lot of debtor protections in most states, and they vary a lot state to state. So that is, if you have creditors' rights on your exam, like Virginia does, then that's something that you want to know specifically for your state. Illinois, for example, I volunteer. I'm a member of the bar in Illinois, and I have volunteered for the legal hotline. And so we get a lot of debtors who say, I got this thing and I'm summoned to court and what do I do? And when I tell them, when I go through their financial situation and I figure out that they're pretty much judgment proof, I say, look, you know, the very worst thing that this person could do is garnish 25% of your wages and they can't come after this or this or that. They feel like, and sometimes you got people who don't have wages, they're on Social Security or whatever. It's like, don't worry. They can't do a thing. Why do I know that? Because I know Illinois Creditors Rights. Like I have to know that pretty well though. You'll need to know it for the Virginia bar exam, but it's helpful. And personal property, again, I mentioned it with another state. Personal property is things like bailments and whatnot. So it's not covered as part of the real property material. You'll need to learn that separately, but it's not a whole lot of material. Okay, so again, get some Commbuys or mini reviews or some other materials specific to the Virginia topics. Use our resources for all of the MBE topics, and review those past essays that are available at barexam.virginia.gov. All right, I know I had a Georgia, and then I will check and remember who else I had. These are my states today. Georgia, your essays are interesting. You get 45 minutes for each one, right? So it's a little more expansive than an MBE essay. Typically, though, you're still getting to the point. I've noticed that they include more issues. Again, I don't know the Georgia law. I don't tutor the Georgia law, but my student who I was tutoring showed me some of the essays and asked me questions about the point sheets, like, okay, you know, and we talked about that. We did, the vast majority of our tutoring was on the MBE subjects, where I'm obviously competent to teach, but as she was preparing on her own for the Georgia subjects, we did talk about those somewhat as well. She just would bring me the materials. And by bring, I mean, you know, email or share a screen in Zoom, right? It's all, we're 100% socially distant company here. Anyway, so georgiabaradmissions.org is your website. It has good overall advice about how to answer an essay question, but you can't even get the topics that it tests on that website unless you go, you know, you open this PDF that is the rule governing admissions, Part B, Section 6C, of course, right? Anyway, I have it here for you in case you're in the dark about what Georgia tests. Georgia has 4 essay questions that are Georgia essays. It has the multi-state bar exam, and then the multi-state performance test. So you will have, you know, they're all Georgia essays, right? So as I've written here, 4 essays, 45 minutes each. And the essay questions are in these subjects. Again, there's a lot, as with a lot of states, there's a lot of overlap between, oh, well, it got skinny, but anyway, all of these, there's a lot of overlap between the Georgia subjects and the MBE subjects. So you should feel, you know, some relief there. There may be some small Georgia distinctions, but I suspect they are few. Georgia is really weird on family law and has some of its own quirks in practice and procedure. Georgia, you're just special in some ways, as we're all aware, right? Okay, Georgia's a little special in some ways, but all of the states I'm talking about today are special in your own way because you all have unique bar exams, state-specific bar exams. These are more common areas that are, you know, tested. Well, here, Article 2 is part of contracts. Article 9 is secure transactions. This one is not part of the UBE. This is not part of the UBE. Now, we teach family law, but Georgia has enough interesting stuff that you want to know Georgia family law in particular. My tutoring student was actually using our UBE program to kind of get an overview of these areas and to learn secure transactions because she didn't know it. You know, she was using our full UBE program instead of just the MBE program, and finding that helpful. So again, you might find it helpful, but you need to keep in mind that the essays that come with our program are not your essays. you want to use solely Georgia essays, or at least mainly Georgia essays, and then some MPTs in your practice, okay? MPTs being part of our UBE program. And again, even if you decide to only purchase the MBE program from us, you should also, or don't purchase anything else from us at all, you should still get us to review some of your MPTs, your multi-state performance tests, to make sure that you're doing well on those tasks. And you should do some timed toward the end to make sure that you can accomplish the task that you're assigned within 90 minutes. Okay, and I know I have left a state out, and I am feeling like, okay, I'm not doing California because it's just, you know, not the goal today, and we're gonna try to get California specific instructors for the California essay. But I can tell you that California is now 2 days, that California's essays are 1 hour now, have always been 1 hour, but it's only 2 days now. And it includes one or two. Anyway, it includes a performance tests that are 90 minutes. So the California bar exam website, I know you California people are still here, you're desperate. So I'm like, I'm gonna give you what I know. The California bar exam website does have some performance tests from California, but that is one case where using a multi-state performance test to study for California is actually a good idea, because California has shortened its task down to 90 minutes, and it looks just like, or very similar to, a multi-state performance test. So do the few little handful that are on the California website, and if you want more, go ahead and do those multi-state performance tests. I mentioned it for some other states, but a few of those are available for free on the NCBEX website. And if you're one of our students, we can send you more. Now I'm getting more states. Let me see. Georgia, I've done. Sunshine State, I've done. And I did Michigan. I did Virginia. And then I'm going to go into the Q&A. So DC, you're taking Cali in December. So you're essentially going to be a California person, or moving to California. Michigan, Alabama. Alabama, you are an MBE state. Brenda, I'm sorry to hold out for this long with this question. Alabama switched very recently from having its own state-specific test to using the UBE, the Uniform Bar Exam, which is comprised of 2 multi-state practice tests, 6 multi-state essay exam tests, and the MBE, the 200 multiple choice that all of us contend with. Okay, so Brenda, that's what you'll be doing, and we have separate webinars on each of those components. So BarMax was great. Alabama. So Brenda, we covered that. That's a UBE state, and today is for non-UBE states. Yes. And Nevada, we covered Nevada? We did, right? Yes, I covered Nevada. So Indiana, yes, I'm in Indiana. Okay, Martha, I'm going to talk to you next. So hang in there, Martha. But I'm going to go to Q&A first, and I'm going to come back and do Indiana for Martha, because I know some of you are hanging out with Q&A, and I can talk Indiana. Virginia, I've covered, so I'm going to say done. New York, Anna. New York is a UBE state, so just like Alabama, it's a UBE state. You'll be doing the 200 multiple choice MBE. You'll be doing 2 multi-state performance tests and 6 MEE essays. Now, you also have a separate component, the New York State Law, no, NYLE, New York Law exam, that you'll need to know some separate material, but that's done as an online course and then a subsequent test. It's not nearly kind of the high pressure cooker that the live bar exam is. There is a criminal law requirement. Yeah, criminal law is covered on the MBE on all on all exams, right? Criminal law is always covered. If I didn't show it, that means it wasn't part of your state-specific essays, right? Criminal law is covered on every exam, whether it's in your state-specific essays or not. Today, I'm really focused on that state-specific performance, or state-specific section for those of you in the special states that have state-specific exams. So I'm hoping that helped. Alaska, you are super special. You are a UBE state, so you need to know the same UBE stuff, multiple choice, 200 multiple choice, the 2 performance tests, and the 6 MBE tests as any UBE state, but your cutoff is 280. You have the highest cutoff. Like for example, in New York, you only have to get a 266 to pass. In Alaska, it's a 280. I guess y'all don't want too many lawyers up there in Alaska, but you can do it. Just take our UBE course and, watch the past webinars, the future webinars, and everything within the UBE course and get the help you need for Alaska, because you need to score very high, and we have students who score in that range all the time, so you can be one of them, but it is UBE. Okay, so there you go. Now I have Indiana. Woohoo! Anyway, that's where I live. I live in Hammond, if you count that as Indiana. That's the little corner of Indiana that's still in the central time zone and very much within the orbit of Chicago. So we're kind of Hoosier and kind of Chi-Town, but more Hoosier, honestly, out here. It's nice. It's nice. We love it here. So in Indiana, you'll do 2 multi-state performance tests. Let me go find it in case I have more notes beyond what I have here. Although I have a lot of material on Indiana because I have tutored Indiana before I came to BarMax. I was, a solo tutor. I love working with BarMax, and it's fantastic what I do, but that's kind of the one weird state that I could actually be helpful. Let me see if I have Indiana. Okay, so in Indiana, you'll have, first of all, if you go on the State Bar's website, there are past essay questions. I'm kind of a paper person, so I have over there on a shelf that you can't see, like a big fat binder like this with the last 10 years of essay questions. And that's, those were the questions that I taught from when I was a tutor. It's part of why I came to BarMax. Much of our philosophy was the same. Use real past questions to study from. They are 45-minute essay questions, okay, the Indiana essays. So 45 minutes each. You'll do 6 of them in the afternoon on your first day. That's a long day, isn't it? And you'll do 2 multi-state performance tests in the morning. So Indiana, my advice to you on that multi-state performance test is the same as for everyone. Do use our grading service to get feedback early so that you're on the right track with how you do them. And then go ahead and do some timed ones later in your practice. Now for the Indiana essays, again, you have some areas of UBE overlap. These are your Indiana essays. And if you want to use our UBE materials for it, you can, with the caveat that our essays are not Indiana essays. And the Indiana essays, frankly, are more complex in business organizations, in secured transactions. I find them to be more complex than the MBE questions. Now, you get 45 minutes to answer them, but they can be pretty tricky, those Indiana questions. Family law is straightforward. It's either who gets the kids or who gets the stuff. Pretty straightforward. Wills, trusts, and estates, similar. Estate administration, trusts, those are fairly straightforward, but I gotta let you know, the questions in Indiana can be complex, and I think more complex than the UBE, particularly in those areas. You need to know some Indiana specific stuff. Administrative law, that's the law about how state agencies work. Okay, and there are some rules about state agencies that they want you to know. They also want you to know Indiana constitutional law. Now, the good thing is there's only a handful of doctrines. I seriously think it's 13 pages in the Indiana Commbuys mini review. That's how much doctrine you need to know from the Indiana Constitution. But you need to know it well because they test any one of those, right? And you don't know of all of these essay topics which one you're going to get. When most of the states went to the UBE, Uniform Bar Exam, instead of requiring state-specific stuff, Indiana doubled down and added Indiana debt collection, Indiana employment law, and Indiana residential landlord-tenant law to its bar exam. So instead of making it more uniform to the other states, it made the bar exam more specific to Indiana. Really just a couple of years ago. So if you use Indiana, you got to make sure that you're using materials that are fairly up to date. If you're buying from an eBay seller, you can ask to see the table of contents, okay? You want to make sure that these 3 topics are included or that you beg, borrow, or steal materials from someone else on those topics. There is not a lot of material on each of them. Residential landlord-tenant law is 6 pages, but you need to know it, right? Indiana debt collection and Indiana employment law are not much more. Man, I made a little study tool for debt collection at some point. It just came to me. I remember writing it for one of my Indiana students back when. Anyway, you can get materials for those topics. And then finally, Indiana pleading and practice, which is basically like civil procedure, criminal procedure. How is it to go through a court case in Indiana? So Indiana does require a whole heck of a lot of law, okay? It's one of those states where there are a lot of subjects that they could potentially test you from. But for many of them, the amount of material that could potentially be tested is pretty small. So learn those really well. Get to know the other ones by looking at past questions, going through, finding the rule if you have to. Don't use those past questions to test yourself, especially at the beginning. Use those past questions to teach yourself. If you're a BarMax student, we can go ahead and send you a packet of those Indiana essays. You don't have to have them in a big fat binder like me. You can have them in a zip file. But you can also find them on the Indiana Bar website. I answered this one. Florida, SK, I already covered Florida. I don't know what time you came in. I covered Florida first because you are not alone. So when you watch the replay of this, watch the introductory material, and the first state I covered was Florida. So go ahead and listen to that. At this point, I think, and I gotta thank you, I think that takes care of all of my Q&A. Let me just check if there's anything else in chat. All right, I don't see anything new, any new states. So I'm just gonna march through the rest of the states. I got a thank you from Nevada. I'm going to march through the rest of the states in my presentation for those watching it on replay. Getting a little water. Because, they're going to need it. They're going to need it. We want this to be useful for everyone who's not in a UBE state and not in California. I've really appreciated your guys' questions. And John, I did talk about Florida in some detail earlier in the webinar, so do watch that. And there are actually a couple. You're asking about Florida resources, so I'm going to show you 2 that these are just screenshots from eBay. Okay, but this is oh no, that's Texas. Sorry. Commbuys mini review for Texas. It's one where there's 2 books for Florida. It's maybe the first thing here. yeah, the Florida testing, that might be helpful too. Just, you know, what's on the Florida law test. But really you can get all the past questions online. So using the Commbuys mini review, maybe the in-class outlines if you can find them from Barbary, and then using those Florida sample questions that they have online is the way to go with Florida. I know I already covered it, but you asked a very specific question. All right, here we go, Texas. Hi, Texas. All right, here's where I confess. The second bar I passed was Texas. And this is going to be, this 2020 administration is going to be the last time that Texas uses the crazy, wild Texas-specific exam that is in such a format that it reminds us that Texas was its own country. I know you like to do that frequently, but I took the Texas exam in 2004. I was checking up on it, and it looks like it hasn't changed substantially since then. But starting next February 2021, Texas will be a UBE state. So you won't have to worry about any of this stuff anymore, okay? What the exam structure is in Texas, and I got a few slides, okay, is the first day is one multi-state performance test. Let me go to my notes to make sure I don't have anything extra special to say about Texas. And then it's followed by the Texas Procedure and Evidence Exam, okay? I'm going to talk about that. By the way, you can get great materials on Texas right now at ble.texas.gov. Again, this just applies to the 2020 administration. Starting in 2021, you're just a UBE state. Use all the other great BarMax materials for the UBE. But right now, you're going to want to do some practice MPTs for this part. This is 10% of your exam. You're going to want to do get your hands on some materials for Texas procedure and evidence. So it's Texas and federal criminal and civil procedure and evidence. And the way that this is tested is 20 short answer questions. You have a very small space to answer. And it's the kind of thing that you either know it or you don't. They give you a fact pattern and they walk you through like a whole court case. So, you know, here's a car accident. And then it says, you know, and it says who wants to sue who for what. And then it says, in what county or counties can the lawsuit be filed? Well, you have to say it can be filed in Tarrant County, you know, because blah, blah, blah. All right, that's it. You've got like 2 lines or something to write it on. It's a very short amount of space. And then it'll follow through the same story, same people, and ask questions about various pretrial motions and discovery and juries and trial and evidentiary issues and how to preserve an error for appeal, right? So it'll walk through, you know, I mean, these are sample questions that I grabbed off of your very helpful information at texasble.gov or ble.texas.gov. So they'll have one big fact pattern like that that's civil and one big fact pattern like that that's criminal. You know, what document must be filed in every instance in which a search warrant is requested and what must it state? You either know it or you don't. So how do you learn that stuff? You can get the Commbuys mini review, or you can get the fill-in information from Texas, you know, the Barbary Texas workbook. Honestly, one thing that really helped me when I was studying for it was I didn't go to a law school in Texas. You know, I went to Harvard Law, and I was a little lost in Texas procedure. And I had some friends that I made that I made them at my Barbary course. I went to Barbary. We didn't have a lot of options back then. And yeah, this was a long time ago. And my new friends said, oh, give her such and such. And it was the name of a professor, and they had like a class outline that kind of walked through it all. So I studied from that. I didn't know to study from past questions then. Now I would study from past questions because there are certain issues that they test and that they will test over and over. So get your Commvisor or some other little outline and open up those questions and walk through and answer them, open book. Okay, do a bunch of civil ones, do a bunch of criminal ones. You'll be ready, okay? You'll learn this stuff that way. Spend a little time on it, you know, over the course of a couple days. And then, you know, refresh periodically up until the exam. It's only 10%, but you know, you don't want to blow it. The MBE is 40%, you know, 20% in the morning, 20% in the afternoon. This is only morning on Tuesday, okay? Day 1 is only morning. Wednesday or day 2 of the Texas exam is the MBE 100 multiple choice in the morning, 100 multiple choice in the afternoon. And Thursday afternoon, or Thursday is 12 Texas essays. Now, Texas is a little unusual in that they will ask 2 questions from the business association's material. Like maybe it'll be a corporations question and a partnership question, or an LLC and an agency or something like that, right? They'll ask 2 questions about wills and administration and a question about either trusts or guardianships. Okay, guardianships is fairly new. I don't think we had guardianships. Okay, they'll ask 2 questions about family law, Texas family law, 2 questions about the Uniform Commercial Code. And now I don't remember if they include Article 3 or not. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Whether you need to know Articles 2, 3, and 9 or just 2 and 9. So you check, well, if you get a Commvisor mini review, it will either include it or it won't. But anyway, you'll have some question that might be a sale of goods. It might be a negotiable instrument. It might be a secure transactions question. You'll get 2 of those. If I'm wrong about negotiable instruments, you'll know because it won't be in your little Barbary materials or whatever steady aid you're going to get used online, eBay or similar, in order to, you know, save some money, and you're going to use us for your MBE. Real property in Texas, there will be an oil and gas question. This was another thing that really threw me for a loop coming from an out of Texas law school. Hadn't heard of oil and gas law. It's a little tricky. Don't just try to read the outline and understand it. Any outline, okay? Do some questions. It's all about who has rights to the surface and who has rights to the minerals underneath. But the way they divide up those rights is a little bit, you know, new math. Anyway, so you want to do a lot of practice questions in oil and gas if you did not go to law school somewhere that, you know, if you didn't take oil and gas in law school, which, see, Texas students knew to take oil and gas in law school because they knew they were going to face this behemoth, and I had to learn it. And I was practicing law at the time, okay? And, you know, it's like, come on, I got to learn oil and gas and Texas procedure, and I need to, you know, get all this work done too. I would go to my Barbary class in the morning and be crazy for the rest of the day. But, you know, you're all crazy. You're studying for the bar. You know how it is. Consumer rights in Texas is the last Texas subject. It's fairly easy, okay? You know, it's really mostly just a couple of statutes that you need to know about, you know, debt collectors, okay, stuff like that. The debt collector statute is surprisingly consumer friendly in Texas, so you can really nail people for you know, creditors for violating it, for harassing people against the law and stuff. And then you need to know a little bit about insurance. There are 2 crossover subjects. You can be asked about federal taxation, and you can be asked about bankruptcy. Okay, in any of the other questions, it will typically come up in something like family law or wills or real property, Okay, you might be asked about taxation in an oil and gas question because somebody's making money off of this oil and gas business. Okay, so you'll need to know income, estate, gift tax. Okay, and so it will be included as an element in some other question, and bankruptcy may be included or will be included in one of them as well. Okay, so that's Texas. That is Texas. So I'm hoping that if you do decide to take BarMax for your MBE, we can just help you to nail this part of it, that you're not worried at all. If you need more fact patterns than are available in all of the past MBE questions, but particularly in civil procedure where they haven't released a lot of questions, just go ahead and ask us. We'll send you the packet of past MBE questions in civil procedure. They won't help you with the Texas essays, not particularly, but they will help you just as study material to see more fact patterns for learning civil procedure, federal civil procedure for the MBE. Okay, so that's what I recommend for you Texans. Delaware. Delaware, you have a bar exam only once a year, as you know. Business associations, it's kind of funny, like, Delaware developed all the corporate law that we consider the corporate law now, and most of it developed in Delaware based on Delaware cases because of, the choice that, the way that Delaware makes it friendly for corporations to incorporate there and has a nice, well-developed body of law that people like to use. So really any good source on business associations is going to help you with your Delaware law. You'll need to know, specifically Delaware law on corporations, and then there's partnerships and LLCs in there. Contracts, criminal law, but you will need to know some Delaware remedies, evidence, property, torts. We'll be able to help you out with this, just even in the MBE course. Okay. Now, if you do take our UBE course, we have your other topics, but you would need to learn your distinctions or you need to learn some Delaware criminal law and procedure, and you would need to know your Delaware civil procedure as well. So you need to know Delaware, some criminal law and procedure, and you'll need to know civil procedure. Let me see if I have a note on which parts of the UCC you need. I may not have it, but your essays get 45 minutes each. Okay. And yep, so these are your topics. The Delaware Criminal Code is going to be tested as part of your essays. So these are your essay topics, and that'll get you through day one. Those are your essay topics for day one, all of this. Day two is 2 performance tests. Day two is only a morning test. Okay, so day one, you're going morning and afternoon. Day two, just the performance test in the morning. And then your third day is the MBE. Yeah, okay, so it's usually Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, your exam, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and it's still on for July. So I'm assuming it's happening. You got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Now, it's interesting. Delaware uses the multi-state performance test, but its rules give it the right to write its own performance tests if it wants. So it can use partly multi-state performance tests, partly Delaware. Either way, they're the same format. They're those 90-minute performance tests. They give you a file. They give you a library. They require you to do a task. So I recommend that you study for those the same way as anyone in the other states by doing some practice ones and sending them to us for review. It would be included if you decide to just purchase the whole UBE program. You get 10 reviews included. If you're only purchasing the MBE program, it doesn't come with essay reviews, but you can just buy them for $30 each. It's worth sending a few at the beginning to make sure that you really have the process down. and then, you know, do some timed toward the end to make sure that you can, you know, manage it timed, especially doing 2 back-to-back, which, you know, UBE states also have to do 2 back-to-back, but it really becomes, you know, all about allocating your time. And I'll be having a multi-state performance test webinar as well. So we'll go into that, more detail on that there. We've covered Georgia, Hawaii. Okay, Hawaii. You didn't really need to be here today. You just need to take the UBE course. You need to take the UBE course from BarMax, because what you are taking is the UBE plus an extra half hour on Tuesday morning or day 1 morning, okay? You're gonna get there. You're gonna get 15 multiple choice questions on Hawaii professional responsibility. You need to learn your Hawaii rules of professional conduct. You need to go and find example materials about how those rules are tested. Just example of the multiple choice, know which rules they're going to test most frequently, practice that, and then do our UBE course and all of the office hours and other benefits we offer, and you will be ready for your entire bar exam there in Hawaii. All right, Indiana, we've covered. Kentucky. Kentucky, your website is so vague, I got mad at it. I felt like it might have even been internally inconsistent, but still, begrudgingly, I will admit that there is helpful information on there, but it says, oh, we may include some MBE questions, some Kentucky questions, maybe an MPT, maybe not, which is crazy. So do you prepare for the MPT or don't you? You prepare. We don't trust these people. We think that they're going to throw it on there. They typically do. So you prepare for the multi-state practice test like anyone else. The good news is that they used to have admin law, federal taxation, Article 3, you know, negotiable instruments listed as testable subjects. Those are no longer on the website. So I am thinking these are just identical to the UBE the MBE subjects. Just know, if you go look at the Kentucky website, the Kentucky Bar website, your subjects are now just identical to the MBE subjects. So that's your 7 MBE subjects and the additional UBE topics, okay? So really having a, I see that I have a question. I'm going to take that in just a second. So having access to our UBE course would cover all the subjects that you need, and you would still want to get maybe an outside material like a Commbuys or mini review from Barbary or some other outside study source to learn any Kentucky distinctions in any of those areas that there might be, like in real property, for example. There might be distinctions, and certainly you want to know the specific, you know, Kentucky distinctions for family law and wills and subjects like that. But they don't have administrative law, federal taxation, and negotiable instruments on there anymore. So you're okay, Kentucky. I'm going to look at the Q&A. Thank you for talking about Indiana. How do we have the essays sent to us? I think just reach out to us through the support link or send us an email. Like once you're in BarMax, like once you've purchased the MBE program, you see the little headset. So reach out to us through there and we'll send it to you. And I don't know, Scott, when the Indiana exam is going to be. I think it's still saying, yeah, I didn't try to keep track of the dates for this one. I apologize. So you'll have to check the Indiana Bar website for that. Now I had a raised hand and I have a few enough people here that I think I can handle that. Let me see. I have participants. See if I can do this. Nope, that person, wait. Oh, I see. Here we go. I have still 15 attendees. Well, thank you guys for sticking around. I don't see my raised hand anymore. So if you do have a question, go ahead and type it in Q&A. It may have been a mistakenly raised hand, which happens. It's like in class when you scratch your head and the professor's like, yes, Mr. Smith. You're like, oh, crap. Now what do I do? Mississippi, welcome Mississippi. You are also what I call a UBE plus state. You are taking the UBE, okay, the Uniform Bar Exam, except you get to stay an extra hour and do 2 Mississippi essays on top of the 6 MBE essays. You're going to be hard working there in Mississippi, right? So on day 1, you're going to do, and then you have Mississippi essays here too. So look, this part here, 1 MPT and 6 MBE essays is all on the UBE, okay? And then, yeah, all of this is on the UBE, the Uniform Bar Exam. You want to use our materials for that, and you want to try to get some outside materials for the Mississippi distinctions and for these subjects here. Okay, so that's Mississippi. I hope that helps. Oklahoma, I have something helpful for you in Oklahoma. Look, your website is terrible and has no helpful information. Where you want to go, I taught in Oklahoma, and actually I taught at OCU for a while, Oklahoma City University, so woohoo! And it happens to be that the most helpful source of information for preparing for the Oklahoma bar exam is the academic achievement website of OCU. So you're just going to have to go over there, my OU friends, not physically, but you know, to the website, law.okcu.edu, academics, curriculum, academic achievement. Scroll down, 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 and you will find past essays. Okay, your exam is going to be 8 Oklahoma essays in the morning, 8 in the afternoon. You get 30 minutes for each. These are your subjects for those essays. And then day 2 is the MBE. You use our MBE program and we will help you with this. This you're gonna have to really, the Oklahoma essays, you wanna look at those past samples for, you know, how all of those subjects are tested in those 16 essays. It's brutal, it's a lot of writing. Okay, do not handwrite the Oklahoma essay exam. 16 essays. 30 minutes each. So that's a lot to write in one day, and you'll see how those topics are tested by looking at the past essays, which you can download at OCU's website. Pennsylvania, you do have the multi-state practice test. So again, like I've said to the other states, I want you to watch the MPT materials that we have here at BarMax and go ahead and send us some, okay? But Pennsylvania does have its own Pennsylvania essays that are given 45 minutes each. And then day 2 is the multi-state bar exam, the multiple choice. Pennsylvania, here are your subjects. Those are the things you need to know. So again, we recommend that you prepare with our materials for the MBE and then buy some used materials online, like I was talking about at the beginning, for your Pennsylvania distinctions and your Pennsylvania subjects. And practice from, wait, let me see if you guys have. Sorry, I'm gonna take a moment here and I will be out of here in just a minute because I need to go, but I don't have too much more. The website shows 3 years of essays. We may have more, so ask us, reach out to us, and we'll see if we can send you prior year's essays. South Dakota, all you have is the UBE plus a half-hour question on federal Indian law. So go ahead and learn the federal Indian law from another source, any South Dakota distinctions in real property and family law and wills, those areas. Learn those from, you know, used materials you buy online, but use us for everything else, okay? You have 5 MBE essays. You will need to use your South Dakota distinctions in those. You have 2 multi-state performance tests. You have the MBE, so it's almost exactly like the UBE, but you will need South Dakota distinctions, and you will need federal Indian law, which just tests like 3 or 4 main statutes. Virginia, we've covered. Wisconsin, again, you are, you're going to have a few Wisconsin essays that are going to include possibly these topics. So you want to learn those and any Wisconsin distinctions by grabbing the Commbuys mini review for Wisconsin and looking on the inside, see if anything's different. But the rest will be just like the UBE, and you want to do that. Anyway, I was supposed to go here much earlier, but here it is. These are our courses for anyone who is interested. You can purchase the MBE course right here. It includes everything that you need to pass the MBE. And if you need a little extra tutoring, you can purchase an hour of tutoring here and there, or you can purchase a package to use over your bar study period. If you want more than our in-depth package, okay, we have these packages here. If you want more than our in-depth package, call and we'll tailor something specific to your needs. Okay, again, many students, including students from non-UBE states, have found great success on their bar exams using BarMax, and we hope that you will join them. Thanks for coming today, everybody. I got one more thing in chat, and watch the replay for Florida. Okay, I covered Florida toward the beginning, and the webinar on the MBE, a link was sent to your email. Okay, that's it. That is about all the time I have. Oh no, the webinar links are right there in chat. Go grab them now if you haven't yet. Okay, the webinar links have been posted in chat by some of my colleagues. There you go. Anyway, this has been a blast. We really want to be here for you through the whole process. And happy studying and stay safe.